then this writer goes to the bigger picture, and she says, let's take an honest look across the globe together. What country holds the torch for freedom that all others look to and try to imitate? What country makes its hobby destroying evil men with dreams of destruction? When people flee their country due to oppression and tyranny, where do they dream of going? Without any apology or shame, there should be no American who was afraid to say, America is the last great hope of mankind. And without her, the entire world is condemned to live out the dreams of evil men. This is what makes America great, the resolve to stand against evil. No polished phrasing can be used to lend power to this greatness. No man can take a picture of it and save it for future generations to enjoy. The dream of liberty is what inspires good men to stand up and fight for God, for family, and for country against men whose dreams disregard freedom and seek to destroy faith in God and the unity of a people. There's more to this. It's so beautifully written, and it's written by a college student who is hoping to win a Savage Scholarship of $20,000 over 2 years. And whoever wrote this is probably going to be a winner. I don't know. I don't have it yet. I think so. So if the person's listening, we love your essay. We had so many good ones. This was amongst the best. And remember, every time you purchase a copy of Countdown to Mecca, available on Amazon right now or in a bookstore, I promise I will give 50% of all the royalties to the Savage Scholarship Fund, because I want to make the Savage Scholarship Fund of what it means to be an American a permanent legacy of mine. Meaning, God willing, long down the road, God willing, when I decide it's over, or it decides for me it's over, or they decide for me it's over, or God decides for me he needs someone up there to entertain him, I want the Savage Scholarship Fund to run on and on and on and on, and I want there to be more winners than I have now. And I want to fund it with a lot of funding and all of that. But I didn't even know it would grow this big so fast. I just put $100,000 into it to start with, plus support money. And it's now we've gotten applications from around the country. It's awesome to see how many kids are deserving. I guess that's what I'm saying. And how many of them love America. You have no idea what hope there is for the country out there and the young people. You never see these people on the media. All you see are the ones with the nose rings and nipple rings with the purple hair, sleeping with their girlfriend. They want you to believe that's America. All the sickos in the media want you to see are those who hate America and spit on the flag. They don't show you the beautiful children of America. They don't show you the future hope of America. But I want to remind you what's out there. Don't give up. And don't assume it's all over just because we have such a hateful image of the young people today. No, they're not all haters. Some of them love this great country. And there's going to be 5 winners of the Savage Scholarship Fund, $20,000 each over 2 years. That's year 1. I hope that by year 2 we can expand it to much more than that. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUYCOIN. I can't stay in bed. I'm one of these people, I can't stay in bed. I try to. Now, one of the reasons I don't go to these places that we help out, like Chimp Haven, is I feel bad for the animals. You know, I don't like looking at them. They look sad to me, all of them. The people who run them, God bless them. But I imagine if I went to Chimp Haven, where they rescue the chimps after they were tortured for years in laboratories, they'd look at me and like my eyes would write a script that goes back and forth where I could hear the chimps saying, "Big deal, so you gave me a tree to sit in. What are you, a big shot? You got a house, a refrigerator, a car, a boat. You fly around, I sit here on a stinking tree, and take a look at my behind. You think there's a normal chimp's behind that's red like that? Don't be mistaken. It's for the years of experiments with those hemorrhoid drugs. It's you and your kind that did that to us." No, I can't go to these places. I have a kaleidoscopic mind, and I have to go to humor in order to survive anything. So I create imaginary dialogues with animals that, of course, are not real. And it's my way of coping. It's my coping strategy with sadness. Always turn it into a humorous situation if you can. It worked for me when I was a kid. I entertained my mother because of my poor brother, my silent brother. I had to learn to entertain her to stop her from crying. And that's how I learned to be your entertainer. Thank you very much, Rimshot. So out of sadness, humor can grow, and out of humor and wisdom can grow. And not all of us are lucky enough to have wisdom. as most of us struggle to have it, even for a second in our lives. But the answer to it all, frankly, is humor, I think, kindness, trying to get along with each other. And if you read the Bible, again, I'm not selling anything to you. Many of you are atheists, many of you are religious. You look at the Bible, it's filled with fire and brimstone, and everyone's dying and things of this, and cities are blowing up. And then in the middle of it, you come to an Isaiah where he says the lion shall lie down with the lamb. You've heard about that one, right? The dream of that time that will come. Or he writes, Isaiah, that with righteousness God will judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the land. Well, my father was a cynic, a Russian immigrant who worked very hard, and he used to walk the streets of New York and hold my hand and try to warn me about what was coming. And he would actually mock the Bible, by the way. He was not a religious man. People don't understand that. They think because the way I speak that I grew up in a religious family. He was an atheist through and through, and he would say to me, he would scoff at the Bible. He would say that the Bible says, I think he said, no, Jesus said the meek shall inherit the earth. And he would look at me and say, Michael, you know what the meek shall inherit? The meek shall inherit dog crap. That's what they're going to inherit. He said, that's what I've seen in life. The meek shall inherit, I can't even use the word, but he used that word. I was 5 years old. So you wonder why I'm cynical. But the Bible, Isaiah says, the meek shall, inherit this or that. And in this world, this imaginary world, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together. And a little child shall lead them, and a cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Now, what is that about? It's an imaginary world that Isaiah wrote about. It's an imaginary world. So without imaginary worlds, we can't live. We all have to have an imaginary world to live in. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yes, no, maybe?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
To the Savage Nation Rock and Roll Friday. From the Bible to rock and roll to dogs to charities to chimps to South Africa to New York. All aboard. Welcome to the Savage Nation. Many of you don't understand what I do. Many of you do understand what I do. The higher intellects love this show. I didn't say the higher educated. I said the higher intellects understand the show. They get all the brain waves. I just got an email. I was going to go to something. I was going to go to the Bill Gates piece that I promised you yesterday on the fear he has of a pandemic wiping out 50% of mankind, which I believe is highly probable as well, which is probably long overdue, incidentally, because of a number of reasons. The earth cannot sustain this number of people. Impossible. Especially since we're exploiting the animals and the planet at an extent that it's unsustainable. Pardon for using a liberal phrase, but it's 100% true. It's an unsustainable system. But let's put the mathematics of that aside. I just got an email from a man a couple of weeks ago. Remember an artist called the show, and I asked him to send me a picture of his pictures. His name was John Duggar, D-U-G-G-E-R. I never heard from him. This just pops up. And he says, just Google my name, John Duggar. And he goes on and on about radio. And he says, look, Michael, I have to say this, Dr. Savage. First about radio. As a boy, I built Heathkit radio receivers and kept my own radio at the head of my bed, overlooking the stand of blue spruce trees outside my window in Michigan. That little radio of mine had drift. It slowly moved its tuning focus down the bandwidth by itself, pulling in stations slowly, far away, through the night as it kept me company. Listen to this. It's beautiful. In those days, the radio shows were so unique and memorable. Arthur Godfrey, country evangelists, corn prices, late-night baseball doubleheaders under arc lamps, Tennessee Ernie Ford, hogbacks, prairie philosophers, the lot. It became the subliminal tapestry of sounds in the background of my youth. So I have a special affection for radio, and I listen to you, Dr. Savage, on the Drake S8 receiver or my little Grundig G5 portable, which is the portable shortwave receiver I always take to Europe. Your show is really like a radio Chautauqua, where you mix current events, recipes for meatballs, politics, sports, and art, and your own memories of times past, as Proust would say. I know that other radio hosts have criticized your format and your popularity, but this sense that you have, what Kipling calls the common touch, is so important to conveying your message. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, so to speak. Secondly, Dr. Savage, when you mentioned Lysenko, I almost spilled my coffee, because no one I know has mentioned him since I did my Russian studies years ago and understood what a dogmatic and ideological disaster the Soviet regime was. Then you mentioned Immanuel Velikovsky, and I actually did spill my coffee on the carpet. When you spoke last week about the rise of the Nazis, I had to call to relate how the Wilson Doctrine so harmed the peace after World War I because it created a formula for equating national self-determination with races, such that the liberals were quite unable to withstand Hitler's demand for reincorporating ethnic Germans from other nation states into a great Third Reich. This same liberal philosophy of using racial metrics to define communities or areas of separation are still a beloved tool of the liberal political class, much like the liberals and labor socialists in Churchill's time. In fact, there was a bit of a parlor game in England before World War I to try to draw a map on the tablecloth of how the dinner guests would reapportion the Balkans, and on and on. Lately, your motto, Michael Savage, Borders, Language, and Culture, has always appeared to me to be more than a conservative touchstone or shibboleth, although it certainly is that externally. But if one understands that same formula, as it were, internally, what an immense guiding light it becomes, because borders can be understood to be about personal borders, and filling those borders with the most positive content one can achieve, as well as setting oneself apart, not letting others unduly influence you or overrun your borders. Language is not just to speak American, but to speak our mother tongue, English, in the most correct and literate manner, to be well-read and gracious in delivery and debate. Finally, culture, to be personally cultured in both the local and international senses, to behave and live in a cultured manner, no matter what economic standard one obtains. These guidelines are as applicable to modern America as to Edwardian England or Cicero's Rome. Michael, borders, language, and culture are what makes us well-rounded, accomplished and social in the most correct and far-reaching manner, he writes. They are to live by. This is one man's email to me. I'll read the last paragraph. Thank you for sending me your latest Jack Hatfield novel, Countdown to Mecca. I have enjoyed the first two and your other works, most especially The Coming Civil War, are favorites of mine. If you like anything in my works below, I'll see if I get something of a like manner, blah, blah, blah. And thanks for responding to my call last week. Sincerely, John Duggar. See the kind of listeners I have? Why I love the show. I tell you the truth. It's my lifeline to my own sanity. I don't have people that I can really talk to other than outside of one or two in my life. There's very few people really to talk to. I'm a loner at the end of the day. As well as I can communicate, and believe me, I'm a people person. I like people. At least I did when I was a boy. Maybe I'm imagining I like people. But if you put me in a social group, I'm actually quite sociable. I enjoy people. I get along with people. And such, but I don't have a lot of people around me. But I have a lot of listeners, and amongst the listeners, there are people like this who really appreciate what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and how I do it, and what form it takes. That's all I want to say. That's all I'm saying. So to me, radio is my lifeline. You, my audience, are my life rafts, and I know it's the same for you. You not only hear me, but you hear others call and make you feel sane in an insane world, right? Isn't that true? You know it's true. When you listen to the Savage Nation and you hear a caller or you read an email, I read an email like that on the air, you say, you know what, I'm not alone. And you no longer feel isolated the way Obama wants you to feel, like you're the wrong one, that you're the last man standing. You're not. You're actually the majority of this country. You're the backbone of America, and you know it when you listen to this show. And how much longer the power structure can tolerate free thinkers like me is anyone's guess. We are devolving rapidly into a fascist dictatorship of a sort of benevolent kind. Not the Hitler kind, not the Mussolini kind. We are descending into a fascist dictatorship as sure as I'm standing here, which is why when I began hour one, I played for you what went on in Nazi Germany and how the Reichstag, their parliament, became nothing but a group of stooges who did the bidding of Hitler, or did the bidding of Mussolini, or did the bidding of the Emperor of Japan. There was no longer a free press, and much of it struck home to me because we're living through this devolution of America. Did Obama start it? Nobody's just liable to end it. It's that simple. So if they were to take me off the air through structures that you can never even imagine, it wouldn't be in the form of making it illegal to do talk radio. They wouldn't do it that way. They could end talk radio in many, many other ways, and they could do it without firing a shot or poisoning anyone's sushi with polonium. I would still do radio, and I would do radio if I had to with a shortwave radio in Mexico. But I don't have to go to Mexico with a shortwave radio. I'm telling you, as long as I have a voice, I'm going to be heard somewhere in the world. And my estimate is that between 50 and 150,000 people would access me on the